Well, folks, it's another edition of Shootin the Shit here on Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. We welcome you back for our 6th episode. Today, we have an awesome guest with us. He is a UFC middleweight, former middleweight, and light heavyweight also. He is also a former collegiate and professional football player. He is Eryk Anders. Eryk, how are you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. Now, look at the haircut you're sporting these days. It looks like you got a half mullet going on. What drove you to have such I'll say, rare haircut outside of Mike Pyle?
Man, I don't know. I just like to switch it up. I think I've had 10 UFC fights, and the vast majority of them I've had a different hairstyle, a different haircut. So, I just like to keep them guessing, switch things up. But I'm really feeling the mullet, so it might stay for a little bit. Might let it cultivate for a while.
I'm assuming you're not a Billy Ray Cyrus fan. You just figured the haircut would look good.
Yeah, I don't know what that guy looks like. I know his songs, though. I know a few of the songs.
His daughter's a little more famous than he is these days.
Sure.
So I know you were just recently, you just came off a fight with Krzysztof Jotko just after this COVID-19. The UFC just started putting fights on, and you were on one of the first cards they had. I know you had an issue with your eye. Do you just want to explain what happened? Was it a injury that happened before the fight? Is it an injury that happened during the fight? And how did surgery go?
Yeah, it's just an issue that I've been having with my eye for a while now, and it's just kind of gotten to the, I had to do something about it. I don't think it affected the fight a whole lot, to be honest. I think, it's just a lackluster performance on my part and the lack of execution, but, it's healing well. I had surgery about a week ago. So, man, it's looking good, feeling great, and, I'll be back here training before long.
Okay, so you haven't gotten back to training since surgery yet?
Nah, like I said, I just had surgery a week ago, and I think the eye takes a little bit of time to heal. Also, man, I was like the youngest person in there, so I think that they err on the side of caution because older people, they don't heal so fast and so well. So, I'll go back and see the doctor in a month, and we'll see what he says then.
Sounds good. So, obviously, previous to the eye surgery, I'm sure you were working out regularly as you could, given restrictions based on COVID-19. How have your workouts been previous to the fight? Have you been getting in full time in the gym? Have you had to kind of modify your workouts? How's that been?
Yeah, everything's opened up back now, but before COVID, Walter and I both, we're supposed to fight before everything got shut down. Then they told us we were going to fight before we actually fought, and then we actually fought. So, man, we just kind of kept training all through the COVID, and I really didn't pay those rules any too much attention, because I feel like me making the money that I can make is an essential business for myself. So, kind of threw caution to the wind, and
yeah.
And
kind of like what you just said is kind of what my stance on the whole thing was, is that who's to decide what an essential business is. I think everyone's job is essential to themselves and their livelihood. So I think, people deciding what essential business was, in that sense was not a good thing, and it wasn't really a logical thing. So it's good to see that you guys were still working out during that.
Yeah, I think everybody's coming out with all kinds of different statistics and whatnot about how it's spread now, and then the World Health Organization recanted their statement about it's not so easily spread if you're asymptomatic and all this other stuff. So, I really don't think that people know for real. I think the statistics are a little, exaggerated, if you will. So, we just, kind of said F it, and if we get it, we get it. It's kind of like the chicken pox for young people anyway. So,
right. I think we're on the same page there 100%. So, looking into your bio, and I think it's well known, you actually grew up on a military base in the Philippines. Do you want to just kind of describe how life was, while you were there? And then I know that you eventually moved back to America. How was that change from being on the base into the Philippines into moving in and, adjusting to American lifestyle?
I really didn't live in the Philippines that long. We moved about every 3 years. And I think I only lived in the Philippines for about 2 years. So, you don't have any cognitive memory of, when you're that young. But man, we did grow up like in America, and we lived in Japan for a pretty good bit. So, man, it's cool, man. You know, whenever you live, like we lived in Japan, we lived on an American base, and you can just like drive off and go experience. It's a totally different world. Once you leave the comfort of the base there, it's you're like in the middle of Japan, so it was cool to absorb all that culture and see how they act and eat their food, and to me that's the best thing that you can do is go travel, live other places. Probably wouldn't have as the kind of issues that we're having now if more people traveled and experienced other cultures and kind of had an open mind to the world.
Right. So I'm assuming was it your father or mother who was in the military, and what branch of the military were they in?
Yeah, my mom was in the Air Force.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Did you ever consider taking in the military, seeing that you came from a family that your mother was in the military?
Hell yeah. Well, man, for me, like out of high school, I got the scholarship to go play ball, so I went and did that. What's going on, Jeremy? And then, then I played ball for about a year or two after that. And once the NFL thing didn't work out, I was just kind of, what up, Steve? I was just kind of, working different jobs and doing construction and cleaning apartments, and just kind of fed up with being a civilian, if you will. So I actually went to speak to the recruiters. I was actually on probation at the time for a fight that I had got in. And so the Air Force said, hell no, can't come here. The Army was like, yeah, hell yeah. College, you got a degree, we'll take you.
Well, you probably would have entered as an officer, seeing that you had a degree.
Yeah, and the Marines, I had to sign a waiver, and then, I really want to consider in the Navy because I just think that's, you're going to be a pilot, man. It's just too much time at sea, I think.
Yeah.
But man, at the end of the day, the ultimate decision, like I'd already had my son, and him and his mom, or me and his mom weren't together, so man, I didn't want to be all the way across the planet.
Sure.
From my oldest, so I decided to keep thugging it out, keep grinding, try to make the fight thing work, and now it seems like it was all worth it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great story, actually, and I'm glad it worked out for you. Now, you mentioned you played college ball. I believe it was at University of Alabama. Kind of describe. I mean, are the stories kind of true? Are the Division I athletes? Are they treated like royalty at the school? Did you actually have to go to class? Things like that. These are things that people always ask me when I talk to pro athletes. So just kind of describe the daily life as a college football player.
Yeah, the NCAA instituted a lot of rules to make sure that the kids were going to class. Every year you had to have, X percentage of your, of your degree completed. And not only that, but you have to have, I think, a 2.0 GPA or something like that, which, isn't really too hard to maintain. Right. But, teachers are failing the students for not going to class. So, and then when Saban came, they had somebody standing outside with a clipboard with your name on it. And if you were late, they would tell Coach Saban. And, that happens enough times. You got to get up at, 5 in the morning and go what we call stupid shit. Go out there and roll around in the wet grass and get all muddy and do up downs and run and do a bunch of, stupid shit that you wouldn't normally do or want to do. So yeah, I think, everybody went to class, had to go to class, and had to pass the class. So like I said, you have to, have a certain GPA and have a certain amount of your degree completed each year. So, well, yeah. Outside of that, man. Yeah, outside of that, I really didn't pay for too many drinks at the bar and, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's good. And that was the next thing I was going to lead into. How was the party life at University of Alabama as like I said, a Division I football player?
Man, it was awesome. Especially like my red shirt freshman year. Like I didn't have to, like when they all traveled and went to a hotel and stuff, I got to stay in school on campus and go out and party. And, I was just doing the scout team thing. Yeah, I really don't think I took the right approach to it at first, 'cause I was just like, shit, I ain't playing, so I'm going to go, talk to girls and and party, have a good time.
Yeah. I was in the same way. I didn't play college football, but I told people I did at the time because I was a lot skinnier than I am now. So I would just claim I was the punter. And when I was a freshman, nobody knew the freshman kicker or punter. So they're probably he looks like a kicker or a punter. And I'm like, I'm 160 pounds at the time. So
every time one of my friends would come in town to hang out after a game or whatever, I would just tell them that, because these people, they know like who's on the team at Alabama. Like, they know height, they know your stats, they know everything about you. And so I would just tell them that, yeah, he's a recruit. He's on his recruiting visit, and they would show him so much love. They would treat him so, they would treat him so well. And, yeah, it was just a good time.
Yeah. So, that's really interesting that you say that. Because that's kind of how it was with ours, friends of the football team. Now, did the football team actually have like a football house per se, or was there like a designated bar, or how did that work?
Tuscaloosa doesn't have too many options. It's not like the University of Texas is in the middle of downtown Austin. So man, it was just like one main bar for all the younger kids, and not really younger kids, but where all the students hung out. And man, I think it was called, I don't even know what it's called now. It's changed so many times. Like Rounders is what it was called. It's changed several times over the years. So, yeah, everybody would just link up and, be in there.
No specified house for like the main football guys, kind of like you see on those stupid shows like Blue Mountain State or anything like that.
Man, what's going on? Good, yourself? Yeah, go ahead. Go inside. It's open. Yeah. No idea who that guy is. What you were just asking me?
So there's not like a specified football house like you see on Blue Mountain State, the old
yeah.
Like the football house,
Man, we had a dorm room where like the majority of the players stayed. There were a few of them that moved off campus. That could handle the responsibility of adult life, like paying bills and things like that. But for the most part, no. So they stayed in the dorm and whatnot. And, man, we just go over there and see what's up, pregame over there, and then, take it on out somewhere.
I have a feeling most bar owners wouldn't mind if an underage University of Alabama linebacker like yourself was heading into their bar anyway.
Man, they weren't really, checking IDs too heavy.
So how old are you? You're in your late 20s, early 30s?
Right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 33.
Okay, so you're a little bit older than me, just a tad older than my brother. So you're around the same time that we were in college, so that would make sense. Now, in terms of you had a long football career, obviously, I would assume it started at a young age and it went into college, and like you said, even to the pro levels. You've been doing MMA, I would say. Did you start doing MMA while you played football or after?
After. I've been doing it about 9-10 years now, I think.
Okay. So, in your opinion, and, I've heard both, what do you think was a harder sport to, achieve in, or what was a harder sport to pick up, American football or mixed martial arts?
Man, I would say it really depends on the person, man. I think some of those, like wide receivers and cornerbacks and defensive backs and whatnot would translate really well into MMA and could probably play a bunch of other sports, but MMA, man, there's so much to each sport, man. It's not just like the thing I like most about MMA is, football's full of a bunch of like big dudes, like giant dudes. So sometimes guys can get away with, just using power and not so much technique. And I think in MMA, once you get to the highest level, outside of like, Francis Ngannou type guys with just that much power. I think that there's a lot more training that has to go into mastering the craft. So I would say that I think MMA is the hardest sport.
For sure, because in football you basically just need to learn, the technique of your position and maybe another position or two just to cover yourself. Whereas in MMA you need to know everything: wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to the card this weekend. It's actually, I'm usually pretty much on ESPN, UFC side when it comes to cards. Hey, it's not going to be that bad of a card. I think the main event is probably the weakest main event they put on ever. I love me some Jessica Ai and I love me some Cynthia Calvillo, but I don't know if I love them in a main event spot. Let's start at the bottom of the main card. We got 5 fights on the main card. It looks like it's going to air on both ESPN and ESPN Plus because there is no sports, obviously, anymore. First thing we got is a bantamweight fight between actually 2 flyweights. Jordan Espinoza, Mark De La Rosa. Do you got any insight on this fight for us, Eryk?
Not really like insight, but I think that Espinoza, especially in the early rounds, he's got a lot of pop and snap on his punches. He moves around a lot as well. I don't know if he comes from like a karate style background or whatever, but I think that Espinosa is going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to also take Jordan Espinosa here. He's pretty well rounded. He's got good wrestling, like you said. He's got good striking. He comes from Luttrell in New Mexico, who's a pretty good striking gym. I'm going to take Espinosa as well. I don't know if he finishes De La Rosa, but if he does, I'd say he does it in the second or third round.
De La Rosa's coming out. He got knocked out in his last fight, right?
Oh, that's right. I'll check right now. He lost to Raulian Paiva. He got knocked out in the second round, and that's what I'm going to say. Espinosa, second round knockout again.
Yeah, man, I think. And when was that fight? That fight wasn't too long ago.
That would have been. It was this year in February. So yeah, he's already had a fight in 2020. Man, so
I think when guys get knocked out like that, they need to take some time off. Because your brain needs some time to recover.
Yeah. Do you mean that physically and mentally also?
I mean, mentally, he might be a warrior, dude. I don't know De La Rosa, so I don't know his mindset. A guy like Mike Perry gets knocked out, he can be ready to go the next day. He's gonna want to anyways. So I don't know if he has like that mindset or that kind of heart. I don't know him, so he might not. So. Yeah. But I think physically, I think, your brain swells and, all kinds of stuff happens in there and it doesn't heal as fast as, other parts of the body. So I think, you should err on the side of caution, take your time and,
collect your bearings.
But, at the same time, he might not like that he got knocked out and, he wants to get back in there and, whatever. But
that's true.
I think you're more susceptible to get knocked out if you've been knocked out. Especially if you fight again, like 4 months after that happens. I think you need at least 6. That's just me, though.
Yeah, and I think that's a legitimate opinion as well. I've kind of hinted to the same thing on some of the other shows that I'm on this network. Second fight on the main card, we got featherweights. We got a really talented guy in Charles Jourdain who is not getting any easy fights entering the UFC. He's taken on a top 20 featherweight in Andre Fili, who always brings it. What do you think about this one, Eryk?
I don't know much about Jordan, but I can guarantee you Andre Fili's game plan is to get on that jab. He's going to throw that jab and it's going to land, 150 times over the fight. So, Fili's no easy out though. He's a tough guy. He's fought a lot of vets too. And he's the vet in this fight. How many fights does Jordan have?
Jourdain has less than a dozen, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the numbers on him right now, but he was a really interesting prospect coming into the UFC, and they really haven't. I don't have the list in front of me, but the couple fights they've given him, they weren't easy. So he came in as a prospect, and they threw him pretty much right in the deep end. Fili's coming off that loss to Sodiq Yusuff. Before that, he was on a 2-fight win streak over Shaman Moraes and Miles Jury, which are 2 really big wins. But you're right. He has great striking, very good counter wrestling because he works with the guys at Alpha Male. I think but I think Jourdain's going to try and strike with him. So I think you're going to see basically a glorified kickboxing match. I like Andre Fili here. He's longer. He's athletic. He's quick. I will take him. How about yourself?
Man, just because you said Fili, I fuck with Fili, but I'm gonna go with Jordan.
Going to be contrarian just to be contrarian.
Yeah.
Next one's a bantamweight fight. I'm really interested in this one, actually. You got Merab Dvalishvili, who works with Matt Serra. He's a teammate of Aljamain Sterling. A lot of people consider him to be undefeated in the UFC. He's had a couple of questionable losses. Taking on Ray Borg, the king of missing weight, but he is fighting at bantamweight instead of flyweight, so hopefully that's not the case here. What do you think on this one? Borg actually just fought as well, so he's coming off a recent fight. So what do you think about this one?
Man, anytime, how do you say his name? Merab.
We'll just say Merab.
Yeah, anytime the Jordanian's fighting, I'm going for him. They call him the machine, I believe, because you just can't outwork him, you know?
Yep.
So, and, man, I seen that guy warming up, so I've actually seen, like, firsthand, like, up close, like, how athletic that guy, you know, his change movement and whatnot. So, I'm going to go with him over anybody in that division, to be honest.
So you think he's a future contender, obviously?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I know that. I think he lost one of his fights. You know, the bell rang as he was getting choked, and he didn't get up, or maybe he passed out after he got choked, and they ruled for the other guy, I believe.
Yeah.
So you know, yeah, things like that. You know, but yeah, like I said, yeah, I think he hits hard. He's super athletic. His wrestling is on point. His defense is on point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and cardio is a weapon. So I don't think that people talk about cardio.
Yep.
Very much, but you know, I think that it's going to be hard to outwork that guy.
I don't think I could break that fight down any better than you just did. Just going to mention he is on officially on a 3-fight win streak. His most recent came in February over Casey Kenny, who's a tough kid himself, who also has good wrestling. So I mean, to take out a guy like that, and you know, Merab obviously a great wrestler, obviously, you know, like you said, a machine, good striker. He's well rounded. He's got a great coach in Matt Serra. Yeah, he's a guy that's going places. I'm also going to take Merab overboard here. Heading to somewhat of your neck of the woods in the middleweight division, the co-main event, we got a rescheduled fight between Carl Roberson and Marvin Vettori. Now, just of note, this was a fight that was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago. Roberson dropped out due to weight cut complications, and there was a video of Vettori going ballistic in the hotel. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, brother, I was there.
Oh, that was the fight card you were on, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was there. How
was that? If you want to care to describe it.
I mean, man, this is my thing. If y'all want to fight, whether it be in the cage or outside of the cage, you know, it'd probably be a lot smarter to do it in the cage where you get paid.
Right.
And then they'll pay for your surgery if you get hurt. But, you know, I'm not a talker, you know, so if we're doing this, regardless of what, you know, the location, whether it's in the hotel lobby or in the cage, like, just do it. There was a lot of pushing, shoving, yelling, and it's just a turn off whenever I see that.
Right, and I think Vettori was upset because, you know, he had that suspension for a while, and then he had multiple fights scheduled that had been canceled. There were a number of fights that he had scheduled that had been canceled, and that one got canceled, I believe, on the day of, or was it the day of weigh-ins?
Maybe the day of.
Yeah, so I think that's why he went ballistic, but, you know, he hasn't fought since October, so I can understand that.
Yeah, so, but, you know, Marvin seems to be an emotional guy, fights with emotion as well. He seems pretty pissed off. Cardio will definitely be on his side. Probably the wrestling as well. Mm-hmm. I think there'll be more wrestling than we think, because they both have power, and when guys with power fight each other, they tend to, especially in MMA, I feel like the wrestling starts to ensue, and they're both left-handed, so it's easy to reach down and grab that leg or whatever.
Sure.
I'm gonna go Marvin.
You're gonna go Marvin. I will be the contrarian here. I'm gonna take Robertson. I think he has far better kickboxing. He actually has shown some submission skills on the ground. Two rear naked choke wins in the UFC. I think he's super athletic. Pretty strong as well. I think Marvin gives him a hell of a fight, though. I think it'll be a close decision, but I'll go with Robertson.
All right.
And then in the main event, we got Jessica Eye taking on Cynthia Calvillo in a women's flyweight bout. You know, Jessica Eye is a former title challenger, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in both bantamweight and flyweight. Flyweight for sure. I remember watching that fight. Calvillo is a strawweight. She's moving up to flyweight. You know, I know she cuts a decent amount of weight. She's a team alpha male person herself. So what do you think of this fight?
I just think that she's too gritty, you know? Like, she'll get in your face, she'll make it dirty, she'll make it ugly. Obviously the wrestling and jiu-jitsu for her is on point. I think her striking has picked up a whole lot too. I know Jessica will show up well trained and in shape and whatnot, but and probably be the bigger person, the bigger girl. But I just think that Cynthia has more ways to win and is just going to make it ugly for her.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like the breakdown there. I definitely think Calvillo's a grinder. She's gritty, good grappling, obviously good offensive wrestling. Like you said, her striking is coming along, but she is taking on Ai, who is considered one of the better boxers, in women's MMA in general. Very good boxing, very good movement, like you said, well trained. She's tough to get down. And when you get her down, she is hard to hold down. Now, like you said, is size going to be a factor here because Calvillo is going to come in smaller than Ai. I guess that's something to see. But again, I will be the contrarian here. I will take Jessica Ai by decision in a surprisingly entertaining fight, I will say. A surprisingly entertaining fight. All right, that about does it here today. Eryk, really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us your time. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Special shout out to Nutra Effects and Infinite CBD, taking care of me, keeping things moving. And yeah, dude. Hopefully, I'll be back in the cage sooner than later.
I agree. Any social media you'd like to plug?
You guys can follow me Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Eryk Anders, ERYKANDERS.
Perfect. Well, again, Eryk, thank you for coming on. A lot of interesting stuff. Really appreciate you doing the homework on the fight breakdowns. It was good shit. So for everybody here at the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, you can catch me at Big Riles MMA on Twitter. You can find me on this wonderful network as well. For Eryk Anders, I'm Riley Kontek. Keep watching fights. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Go fuck yourselves.